The coffee hit Mara Bell before it hit the floor. It ran down the burgundy uniform she had pressed before sunrise, while 300 guests watched two servers laugh at her beside Lucian Valenti's private table. Mara did not cry. She did not beg. She reached for the tray because the wrong people were still being served at the wrong tables. Then Lucian stood. "No one moves," he said. The room obeyed him, but Mara looked at the seating chart and saw something worse than humiliation. A guest who had never arrived had been charged to a locked room. By morning, that invisible table could cost Lucian his restaurant, his vote, and the people who believed he no longer knew the difference between loyalty and fear. And the woman they had called replaceable was the only person who kept the record that could prove it. Lucian Valenti did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "No one moves," he said again. The words crossed the dining room more cleanly than the sound of breaking glass. Waiters stopped with plates in their hands. A violinist lowered his bow. The laughter from table 14 died before it became an apology. Mara Bell stood in the center aisle with coffee cooling against her skin. The burgundy uniform she had pressed before sunrise was dark from shoulder to waist. She hated the way people looked at a stain before they looked at the woman wearing it. She hated more that Sophia and Trent knew it. Sophia held the empty carafe as if it had betrayed her. Trent stared at the floor, arranging his face into innocent surprise. "I slipped," Sophia whispered. Mara picked up the tray at her feet. "You did not," she said. Her voice was calm enough to make Sophia blink. Lucian's gaze moved from Mara to the wet floor, then to Sophia. He wore a black dinner suit without a tie, which made him look less like a guest and more like a verdict. Rafael Soria, the restaurant's operations director, stepped forward. "Lucian, we can clean this up," he said. Mara almost laughed. That was Rafael's gift. He could make an insult sound like a favor. Lucian kept his eyes on her. "Are you hurt?" It was a simple question. Still, she felt the room waiting for her to become grateful. "I'm fine," Mara said. Then she looked toward the service station. "Table 48 needs their second course in 3 minutes." Lucian's expression changed. Not softness, attention. "Coffee is on your uniform," he said, "and their lamb is dying in the window." Lucian turned to Rafael. "Get a manager to table 48. Rafael did not move. "There is no table 48 tonight." Mara looked at him. The dining room had 47 visible tables. That was true, but table 48 existed in the service system whenever Lucian's family needed the private east room prepared without a public reservation. It was a timing code. It told the kitchen to hold a premium order, told the cellar to release a locked bottle, and told security to clear the East Hall. Only 4 people could open it. Lucian, Rafael, the head of security, and Mara. Not because anyone had wanted to trust her, because she was the person who had to make the room look ordinary once powerful people were done using it. They never explained the code to her. They simply complained whenever the room was wrong. So Mara watched. She wrote down patterns. She remembered who arrived early, who left through the kitchen, and which details changed when a private meeting turned hostile. That was how she had become useful. That was also how people had decided she was invisible. "I know what table 48 means," Mara said. Raphael's smile tightened. "You know how to carry plates." Lucian's head turned slowly. The room seemed to pull away from Raphael by half an inch. Mara should have felt satisfaction. Instead, fear tightened beneath her ribs. Raphael had denied the table too quickly. Not confused. Prepared. She crossed to the service station and lifted the seating chart from its brass clip. At the bottom was a square drawn in blue pencil. 48. 910. East Room. Premium tasting. No host name. The first details could happen. The last one could not. A private room never opened without a host name, not if the bill was meant to be paid. Mara touched the square with one fingertip. Lucian came to stand beside her. He did not touch her. She noticed that. "What is it?" he asked. "Someone opened a locked room without a host." Raphael gave a short laugh. "That is not what this is about." "No," Mara said. "It is exactly what this is about." She looked at Lucian, not Raphael. Table 48 was charged tonight. Lucian's eyes narrowed. Charged to whom? That is the problem. Mara turned the chart over. On the back were the notes that kept a busy room from breaking apart. An allergy warning. A missing bottle of Barolo. A private room opened at 9:10. She had written it when the alert appeared on the service screen. She had written it because the kitchen always asked her what changed. Nobody else did. "East room was empty at 9:10, she said. "I checked it before the dinner rush." Sophia folded her arms. "Maybe they came in after you left." Mara met her eyes. "I did not leave." Everyone knew why. Sophia and Trent had sent her to polish cutlery in the back hall at 8:50. They told the floor manager Mara was behind on her side work. When she returned, the private room alert had already vanished. At the time, she assumed Raphael had canceled the event. Now she understood the timing. Someone had wanted her away from the East Hall. Lucian looked at Raphael. "Pull the room record." Raphael's jaw moved once. "We are in the middle of service." "So am I," Mara said. Lucian looked back at her. There was no anger in his face, only the uncomfortable recognition that she was right. Mara set the chart down. "Table 48 triggers a 7-course order," she said. "The kitchen preps it under the house account, and the cellar releases reserve wine. If no guest sat in that room, someone can move the charge later and call it a comp." Raphael's voice sharpened. "That is an assumption. It is a pattern." Mara reached beneath the service station and took out the narrow black notebook she kept tied with a rubber band. No one had asked to see it. No one had thought it mattered. It held months of shift rhythms in her small, clean handwriting. Empty rooms, late deliveries, moved seats, unlocked wine, canceled desserts. She opened to the current week. There were 3 blue squares beside the same code. 48. 48. 48. Each one happened during a shift when Raphael reassigned her away from the East Hall. Lucian did not take the notebook from her. He waited. That restraint told Mara more than a speech would have. "I need to compare these times with the house ledger," she said. Raphael stepped closer. "You are a waitress, Mara." His tone made the job sound like a crime. "You are not authorized to audit anything." Mara closed the notebook. "No," she said. "I am authorized to know when a room has no guests, no host, and no reason to be open." Lucian turned toward Sophia and Trent. "You will both finish the shift in the back office," he said. "Neither of you will speak to Mara unless she chooses to speak to you." Sophia's face went pale. Trent tried to protest. Lucian lifted one hand. The protest died. Then he faced Raphael. "Bring me every table 48 record from the last 90 days. Raphael's smile returned, but it had no warmth. "Of course." He walked toward the East Hall with the easy pace of a man who believed he still had time. Mara watched him disappear through the hall he had worked so hard to keep her from seeing. Lucian looked at the coffee on her sleeve. "You should go change." Mara held his gaze. "Not until I see the ledger." The corner of his mouth moved, almost a smile. It did not make him safer. It made him harder to ignore. "Then you will see it," he said. Somewhere beyond the kitchen doors, a locked room that should have been empty clicked open again. The click from the East Hall was quiet. Mara heard it anyway. She had heard every kind of door in Valenti House. The kitchen door dragged at the bottom. The wine room door sighed before it shut. The East Room lock made one clean sound when somebody used a private code. Lucian heard it a second later. His eyes went to the hall. "So, it wasn't empty," he said. "It was empty at 9:10, Mara replied. "That does not mean it is empty now." She hated that she had to explain the difference. Lucian did not look offended. He looked like a man learning exactly how much had happened in rooms he thought he controlled. "Stay here," he said. Mara looked at the coffee on her uniform, then at the black notebook in her hand. "No." Lucian's gaze settled on her. "No. You told everyone not to move. I did not mean you. That is exactly why I am going." For one long second, neither of them spoke. Then Lucian stepped aside. "Walk with me." It was not a command. Mara noticed that too. They crossed the dining room together. Guests lowered their voices as they passed. Some looked at Mara's stained uniform with pity. Others looked at Lucian with curiosity. Nobody looked at Raphael. He had already disappeared into the East Hall. The hall was narrow, lined with old black and white photographs of the Valenti family. Mara had dusted those frames 100 times. She knew where the cameras were. She knew where the shadows fell after 9. She knew that Raphael always walked one step too quickly whenever he was hiding something. Tonight, there were 2 sets of footprints on the polished floor. One set belonged to Raphael. The other had come from the service entrance. Lucian saw them. "Who else has access?" "Officially?" Mara asked. "Only the people you named." "And unofficially?" "Anyone who has been handed a keycard, a delivery badge, or an excuse." Lucian stopped outside the East Room. The door was closed. The brass plate had no number on it. To a guest, it looked like a storage room. To the people who understood the house, it was a place where decisions arrived dressed as dinner. Lucian placed his hand on the handle. Mara caught his wrist before she thought about it. His skin was warm. The contact lasted only a second. Still, he did not pull away. "If someone opened this after Raphael left," Mara said, "they may still be inside." Lucian glanced at her hand. Then he looked back at her face. "You think I need protecting?" "I think you need to stop confusing warning with weakness." Something changed in his expression. Not anger. Respect. He gave a short nod. Then he stepped to the side and called his head of security. "Dante," he said. "East Room." Dante arrived from the far end of the corridor with 2 guards. He did not ask questions. He checked the lock, opened the door, and entered first. The room was empty. The long table had been cleared. No plates, no candles, no signs that a 7-course dinner had ever been prepared. But the air smelled faintly of rosemary, butter, and expensive red wine. Mara walked in after Dante gave the nod. She moved slowly. Lucian watched her, but he did not interrupt. At the far end of the room sat one untouched water glass. It had been placed at the head of the table. No lipstick, no fingerprints she could see. Just one square paper coaster beneath it. Mara picked up the coaster. A ring of water marked the center. Around the edge, someone had pressed a pen hard enough to leave a faint indentation. She tilted it toward the light. Numbers, not a phone number. Not a date. A sequence. 9 to 10, 9:22, 9:37, 10:04. Lucian came closer. "What does it mean?" "Service times," Mara said. "Someone timed each course." "But there were no courses." "Not here?" She crossed to the narrow service door in the back wall. The kitchen used it to bring food into the private room without crossing the main floor. The handle was still warm. On the other side was the prep corridor. A silver cart stood against the wall. Its white linen had been changed, but the wheels left a thin trail of water on the tile. Mara crouched beside it. A drop of red sauce sat beneath the lower shelf. "Someone served this order," she said. "Just not to anyone sitting in East Room." Lucian's phone vibrated. He checked the screen. The color left his face, though his voice stayed even. The house ledger shows table 48 was closed at 10:05. By whom? Raphael. Mara rose slowly. Then he knew the record would be checked. Lucian looked toward the dining room. He could have closed a legitimate dinner. No, Mara pointed at the cart. A real tasting menu uses 2 carts. One for food, one for wine. This cart has only 1 set of water tracks. She pointed to the folded linen. The plates were never brought into the room. Where did they go? That is what the service times tell us. She looked again at the coaster. The intervals were too even. 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 27 minutes. That was not a dinner rhythm. It was a transfer rhythm. Someone had moved something from the kitchen to the East Hall on a schedule. Lucian's jaw tightened. What? I don't know yet. Mara hated uncertainty, but she hated invented certainty more. Then tell me what you do know. She studied the marks again. The first time matches the point when Sophia sent me to polish cutlery. The second time matches when Trent told the runner table 14 had changed their wine. The last time is when the service alert vanished. Lucian stared at the coaster. They kept you busy. They kept me away. Dante returned from the back corridor. Boss, he said, the security feed for this hall is missing from 9 to 10:30. Lucian did not move. Missing? The file shows a maintenance overwrite. Mara looked at the ceiling camera. Its small red light was on. It had been on all night. Someone had not broken the system. They had used it. Raphael had access to operational records. He had access to the East Room code. He had access to the schedule. But he should not have had enough control to erase security footage without someone above him approving it. That is not Raphael alone, Lucian said quietly. Mara heard the weight beneath the words. If Raphael had help, then the betrayal reached into Lucian's inner circle. She took a slow breath. Where is the ledger now? Lucian looked at his phone again. Raphael says he is bringing it from the office. He will not. Lucian's eyes lifted to hers. You are certain? He is buying time. What would you do? Mara almost answered without thinking. Then she stopped. For years, people had asked her for answers, only after making sure nobody could hear her give them. Lucian was asking differently. He was waiting. I would not chase the ledger first, she said. I would lock every room the false table could have used. I would pull the kitchen prep list before someone edits it. And I would ask the people who were moved out of position why they were moved. Lucian nodded once. Then he looked at Dante. Lock the East Hall. No one enters or leaves without Maribel's approval. Dante's eyes went briefly to Mara. Then he nodded. Yes, boss. Mara felt the corridor change around her. Not because a powerful man had spoken her name, because he had placed authority where it belonged, in the hands of the person who had seen the pattern first. Lucian faced her. You wanted the ledger? I still do. You will have it. And if Raphael does not bring it? Lucian's gaze hardened. Then he will explain why. Mara looked down at the water-stained coaster. The answer was not written there, but the path was. Someone had used her routine as cover. Someone had turned the work she did every night into a blind spot. For the first time, Mara understood that being underestimated was not merely an insult. In the wrong hands, it was a weapon. She slipped the coaster into her notebook. Then she looked toward the kitchen. Start with the prep list, she said. Raphael can hide a ledger. He cannot hide what a kitchen was told to cook. The kitchen prep list was supposed to be boring. That was why Mara trusted it. People lied when they thought words mattered. They lied when a boss was listening. They lied when they were afraid. But a kitchen could not lie about what it had been told to cook. Not for long. Mara stood at the stainless steel counter with the prep sheets spread before her. The coffee-stained uniform had been replaced by a plain black blouse from the lost and found closet. It did not fit perfectly. Nothing in Valenti House had ever been made with her comfort in mind. Still, it was clean. That was enough. Lucian stood on the other side of the counter. His jacket was off now. His sleeves were rolled once at the forearms. He looked less like the man who had silenced a room, and more like the man who had been awake too many nights, trying to hold an empire together with people he could not fully trust. Mara did not find that version of him easier. She found it more dangerous. "Show me," he said. She slid the first list toward him. Table 48 was entered as a premium tasting menu. He read the line. 7 courses. 7 courses, Mara repeated. 4 place settings. Lucian looked up. "You said the room was empty." It was. Then why 4 settings? Because whoever created the order wanted it to look believable. Mara moved a second paper beside the first. "This is the actual prep count from the kitchen." Lucian leaned closer. Their shoulders nearly touched. Mara shifted one step away before the contact could become something either of them had to name. "The kitchen was told to prepare enough food for 8, she said. "Not 4. Lucian studied the sheet. "Where did the other 4 portions go?" "That is the right question." Mara pointed to the line beneath the entree. 4 lamb portions were plated. 4 were packed in heat boxes. Those boxes are used for private delivery. Lucien's face hardened. "Outside the restaurant. Or to a different room inside the building." Dante entered through the service door. "Boss." Lucien turned. "The loading dock log shows a delivery van leaving at 10:12. Dante continued. "It was listed as linen pickup." Mara closed her eyes for half a second. The timing fit. The coaster times. The fake table. The missing security file. The heat boxes. Not one mistake. A system. Lucian noticed the change in her face. "What?" "Linen pickup means they used the service elevator." "Why?" "Because no one questions linen. People see a van. They see carts. They see uniforms. They see me." Mara looked down at the black notebook in her hand. "The trick is not becoming invisible. The trick is making everyone else decide you already are." The kitchen fell quiet. Even the cooks at the far grill pretended not to hear. Lucian looked at Mara as if the sentence had struck somewhere deeper than she meant it to. Then his phone vibrated. He read the message. His jaw tightened. "What now?" she asked. "The family council moved tomorrow's vote." "To when?" 8 in the morning. Mara looked at the clock above the pass. It was almost midnight. "He is forcing you to walk in unprepared." "Raphael is forcing me to walk in looking incompetent." Lucian said it without anger. That worried Mara more than anger would have. A man like Lucian Valenti did not become quiet when he had nothing left to lose. He became quiet when he was deciding what mattered most. Dante placed a tablet on the counter. "The van was registered to an outsourced laundry company," he said. "The company does not exist." Lucian gave a single nod. "Find the driver." Dante hesitated. "There is one more problem." He opened a document on the tablet. Raphael submitted an internal complaint against Mara. Mara's eyes narrowed. For what? Unauthorized access to restricted service codes. The words were so absurd that she nearly smiled. Then she saw the attached statement. Sophia's name. Trent's name. The floor manager's name. 3 people saying Mara had been snooping around the East Room for weeks. Lucian reached for the tablet. Mara took it first. "Let me see." Her hands did not shake. She was proud of that. But something inside her did. Not because Raphael had accused her, because he had already prepared witnesses. He had turned the people who had humiliated her into a wall between himself and the truth. Sophia had signed. Trent had signed. The floor manager had signed. No one had written what they saw. They had written what was safest. Lucian watched Mara read. "I can stop this," he said. Mara looked up. "How?" "I can tell the council you were acting at my instruction. You were not. I can make it true now. That would make me your excuse." His expression held. "I am trying to protect you." "No," Mara said. "You are trying to fix a problem you should have seen before tonight." The words were sharp. She expected him to push back. He did not. He set both hands on the counter. "You are right." Mara blinked. Lucian continued. "I should have known who was carrying the work in this place. I should have known Raphael treated your position as a blind spot. I should have known that people were free to humiliate you because they believed I would never notice." His voice remained low. There was no performance in it, no demand that she forgive him for saying the correct things too late. "I cannot change what I missed," he said, "but I can stop asking you to carry the cost of it." Mara looked away. That was the problem with an honest apology. It gave anger nowhere easy to stand. A server came through the kitchen door carrying a small white envelope. "Mara?" She turned. The server held it out carefully. "This was delivered for you." Mara recognized the embossed logo before she opened it. The Hawthorne Hotel, Chicago. She had interviewed there 6 weeks ago. She had almost forgotten. Inside was a formal offer. Assistant dining manager, a salary that made her chest tighten, health insurance, a relocation allowance, a start date in 2 weeks, a job where nobody knew her as the woman who fixed their mistakes and took their jokes because rent was due. Lucian saw the letterhead. He did not ask to read it. "What is it?" he said. "A way out." The kitchen seemed smaller after that. Dante looked away. Even the cooks found reasons to move. Lucian's face did not change. That did not mean he felt nothing. Mara had learned enough about him to see the difference. "When would you leave?" he asked. 2 weeks. "Do you want it?" "Yes." The answer came too quickly. Because it was true. Because she wanted a clean uniform that belonged to her. She wanted a title that did not need defending. She wanted mornings without checking whether someone had moved her name off a schedule. Lucia nodded once. "You should take it." Mara stared at him. "You are not going to ask me to stay?" "No. But you need the notebook. I need the truth. That is not the same as needing you." The words landed softly. They were still the closest thing to respect she had heard from him all night. Lucian picked up the tablet and handed it back to Dante. "Prepare Mara's final pay and a severance package," he said. Dante's eyebrows lifted. Lucian continued. "She will have any employment records she needs. She will have a driver to the airport if she wants one." Mara folded the offer letter. "You are making this easy." "I am making it possible." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she placed the letter inside her notebook. A way out. A real one. No threat. No debt. No promise disguised as a cage. Just a door. Mara turned back to the prep list. "Raphael is using the laundry van to move something." Lucian watched her. "You do not have to solve it. I know." "Then why are you still standing here?" Mara thought of Sophia's signature. Trent's lowered eyes. The floor manager who had let workers become shields for a man above them. She thought of the people who would lose their jobs if Raphael destroyed the restaurant by morning. "I am not staying for you," she said. Lucian's gaze did not leave her face. "I would not ask you to. I'm staying until the people he used have a chance to tell the truth." A slow breath left him. Not relief. Understanding. "Then tell me what you need." Mara opened the notebook again. "The loading dock roster. The staff schedule for every Blue Square night. And nobody touches the kitchen records without me." Lucian nodded. "They are yours." Mara looked at the black blouse hanging loose on her body. Then she looked at the coffee stain still visible on the discarded uniform in the laundry bin. For years, people had treated her work like something they could spill on and walk away from. Tonight, she would make them account for every drop. By 3 in the morning, Valenti House had gone quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet was never the same thing as peaceful in a place built on secrets. The dining room was empty. The candles had burned down to wax pools. The coffee stain on the marble had been scrubbed away. Mara noticed it when she crossed the floor with the loading dock roster in her hands. She stopped beside the spot where Sophia had spilled the carafe. The stain was gone. The memory was not. Lucian came from the office carrying 2 cups of coffee. He held one out to her. Mara looked at it. "You were taking a risk." His mouth shifted. "I asked the kitchen to make it. That is not why I'm worried." For the first time that night, Lucian smiled. It was small, tired, real. Mara accepted the cup. "Thank you." They stood a few feet apart beneath the dark chandelier. The restaurant looked different without witnesses. Less grand, more honest. Lucian looked toward the East Hall. "Dante found the driver." "Did he talk?" "He said Raphael paid him to collect heat boxes from the service elevator." "What was inside?" "Sealed envelopes." Mara did not drink. "Cash?" "Not according to the driver." "Documents." He did not know what kind. He was told not to ask. Mara opened the dock roster again. There were 6 fake pickups in 90 days. Lucian moved beside her. 6? 6 blue squares. She tapped the dates. Each one followed the same rhythm. "Raphael moved me out of the East Hall." An empty table opened. A fake tasting menu hit the house account. Then a linen van arrived. Lucian read the names beside the pickup times. They were not outside vendors. They were employees. A junior accountant, a purchasing clerk, a private room hostess, the floor manager, Sophia, Trent. Mara's throat tightened. They had not simply signed statements against her. They had been part of the machinery, not all of them willingly. That distinction mattered. "The floor manager," Lucian said. "He is Raphael's brother-in-law." Mara looked up. "You knew?" "I knew Raphael helped him get hired. I did not know he had access to private orders." Lucian's answer was honest. It did not make it less serious. Raphael's scheme had not grown in one night. It had grown because people saw only their own corners of the house. The kitchen saw food. Security saw doors. Accounting saw totals. Mara saw the rhythm between them. That was why Raphael had wanted her distracted. That was why he wanted her discredited now. Lucian placed his coffee on an empty table. "Tell me how to stop him." Mara almost corrected him. She did not know how to stop him yet. She knew how to prove the path. But then she noticed something on the roster. A recurring name. Not an employee, not a vendor, a council liaison. Adrian Vale. Lucian's oldest cousin. The man who had called for the emergency vote. Mara felt the floor tilt beneath her. "Who is Adrian Vale?" Lucian went still. "My cousin." "Does he have access to the council's financial review?" "He has access to everything." Mara showed him the roster. His face emptied. Adrian's initials appeared beside every fake pickup, not as an approval signature, as an observer, a witness. Someone making sure the documents reached the right hands. "What was in the envelopes?" Lucian asked. Mara looked at the fake table numbers. "The paperwork that makes your restaurant look like a failing asset." Lucian's eyes narrowed. "He is trying to force a sale. He is trying to make it look like the sale is your fault." The story became clear in pieces. Raphael created expenses that were difficult to trace. Adrian brought them to the council as evidence of mismanagement. The council would vote to remove Lucian from operating control. Then the family would sell the restaurant group to a buyer Adrian had already chosen. The money was never the point. Control was. Mara felt anger rise, not loud anger, the kind that made a person organize every fact before speaking. "They called me unauthorized," she said. "They had to." Lucian looked at her. "If they believed you were competent, they would have had to answer what you saw." Before he could say more, the restaurant's front doors opened. Dante entered with Sophia behind him. Sophia's coat was pulled tightly around her. Her eyes were swollen. Trent followed, pale and silent. Mara set down the roster. "I did not ask for them." "I did," Lucian said. Mara turned toward him. "You said they would not speak to me unless I chose it." "They asked." Sophia took one careful step forward. "I need to tell you something." Mara waited. Sophia looked at the floor. "Raphael said nobody would get hurt. He said we were only helping him expose waste. Then he said we had already signed enough papers that it would look like theft if we backed out." Trent swallowed. "He made us move Mara away from the East Hall. He said she was always writing things down. He said she would ruin everything." Mara studied them. The old instinct told her to turn away. The new truth told her to listen first. "What did you see in the heat boxes?" she asked. Sophia shook her head. "I never opened one, but I saw a blue folder inside the last box. It had the Valenti Council seal." Lucien's face tightened. That was enough. Not proof of every crime, but proof of the access path, Adrian's seal, Raphael's operations, the false table, Mara's notebook, one chain, one story, one evidence trail. Dante's phone rang. He answered, then looked at Lucian. "The council moved the meeting again." "To when?" "Now." Lucian's gaze went to the clock. 3:26. "They are meeting at the family house." Mara felt the pressure settle into place. Raphael had expected the night to bury the trail. Adrian had expected Lucian to arrive confused and angry. Instead, they had Mara. But Mara had one problem. Her notebook was not enough by itself. It showed the pattern. It didn't show the intent. Not yet. Lucian saw the thought on her face. "What are we missing?" "The final blue square." He looked at the current date. "There has not been another pickup." "Not yet." Mara picked up the coffee. It had gone cold. The meeting was moved to dawn because they want the vote before the restaurant wakes up. Before people can check the records. Before anyone sees the next transfer. Lucian's voice lowered. "You think there will be one?" "I think Raphael still has something to deliver." Dante stepped forward. "Then we take him." Mara shook her head. "No." Everyone looked at her. "If you take him now, Adrian says Raphael acted alone. If you lock the family house down, they say Lucian is panicking. If you threaten anyone, they erase the rest of the story." Lucian watched her carefully. "What do you suggest?" Mara opened her notebook to the last blank line. "Let Raphael believe he won." Dante frowned. "That is risky." "So is walking into a vote with only half the truth." She pointed to the empty space beneath the newest blue square. "He needs one more fake table to move the final council folder. He needs the kitchen. He needs the East Hall. And he needs someone to keep me away." Lucian understood before Dante did. "You want to go back on the floor?" "Yes." "In front of everyone?" "Yes." Lucian's jaw tightened. "They humiliated you there." "That is why." Mara closed the notebook. "For once, they need to see that I was watching." Lucian moved closer. Not close enough to take her choice from her. Just close enough that she did not have to raise her voice. "If you do this," he said, "you leave the moment it stops being your decision." Mara held his gaze. "That is the first useful promise you have made me." His expression softened. Then he nodded. "Then we do it your way." At 4 o'clock, Mara put her burgundy uniform back on. The stain was still there. She did not cover it. She buttoned the collar, tied her apron, placed the black notebook in her pocket, and walked back into the room where they had tried to make her disappear. At 4:15, Valenti House opened its doors again, not to dinner guests, to the people who believed they owned its future. Adrian Vale arrived first. He entered through the front doors with 6 council members behind him, each dressed in dark wool coats and the expression of someone who had already decided what the facts would mean. Raphael followed 10 minutes later. He wore a fresh suit. His hair was perfect. His smile was careful. He looked at Mara standing near the service station in her stained burgundy uniform and saw exactly what he expected to see. A waitress back in her place, a problem reduced. He did not know she had chosen the place herself. Lucian stood near the private dining table, silent. He had not told the council what Mara found. He had not warned Adrian. He had not taken the notebook from her pocket. That was the agreement. The room would listen. The truth would be hers. Adrian glanced at Mara and frowned. "Why is she here?" Lucian answered without looking at him. "Because she works here." The words were simple, but Mara heard the difference. Not because she had been made small, because her work was finally being named. Adrian took his seat at the head of the table. "We are here to address operating failures," he said. "An unexplained loss pattern. Misuse of private accounts. Security breaches." Raphael looked down at a stack of documents. He had prepared them well. Mara could tell. The pages were clean. The tabs were exact. The numbers were arranged to make Lucian look reckless and unfit. A person who did not know the house would believe every line. That was why Raphael had been dangerous. He did not create chaos. He made chaos look official. Adrian turned to Lucian. "Do you dispute the figures?" Lucian looked at Mara. Then he looked back at the council. "I dispute the person who taught you how to read them." Raphael's eyes flicked up. Only once. But Mara saw it. So did Lucian. Adrian's mouth hardened. "This is not a performance." "No," Mara said. "It is service." Every face turned toward her. Raphael gave a short, humorless laugh. "You are not part of this meeting." Mara stepped toward the long table. "I was part of every night that made this meeting possible." She took the black notebook from her apron pocket. It looked small in her hand. A cheap cover, a rubber band, months of work no one had thought worthy of a system. "This is my service book," she said. "It records what the restaurant has to do when the official record does not match the room." Adrian leaned back. "That is not a financial document." "No," Mara said. "It is better." She opened the notebook. "Financial documents tell you what someone wanted counted. This tells you what physically happened." She read the first blue square date. On March 6th, table 48, opened at 9:10. The East Room had no host, no guests, no service team. Yet the kitchen prepared 8 portions. The cellar released 2 reserve bottles, and a linen van left through the service elevator 12 minutes later. Raphael pushed back from the table. "That proves nothing." Mara looked at him. "It proves you did not think a waitress would notice how many plates left a kitchen." She read the second date, then the third, then the fourth. Each time, the same pattern. Mara was reassigned away from the East Hall. A private table opened without a host. A fake tasting menu appeared. A linen pickup arrived. A council liaison signed the loading record. Adrian's face changed when she read his initials. Not panic. Calculation. He had expected Lucian to accuse him. He had not expected Mara to explain the rhythm of the scheme in language the whole room could understand. "You're making inferences," Adrian said. Mara nodded. "At first I was. Then Raphael made a mistake." She placed the water-stained coaster on the table. "The night he had coffee spilled on me, he opened table 48 again. The room was empty. But its service timings were left on this coaster." She pointed to the indentations. Those are not dinner intervals. They are transfer times. Kitchen to service corridor. Service corridor to elevator. Elevator to dock. Dante entered from the side door carrying a sealed evidence bag. Inside was a blue council folder. He set it in front of Lucian. The room went still. Raphael's smile disappeared. Dante spoke to the council. The driver confirmed he collected this folder from the East Hall service elevator. It contains the proposed sale agreement for Valenti House and its restaurant group. Adrian's voice went cold. You had no right to intercept private council material. Mara looked at him. It wasn't private. It was hidden. She opened her notebook to the last page. The same false orders created the losses used in this sale agreement. The buyer was given a lower valuation because the restaurant was made to look unstable. Raphael created the fake expenses. You approved the review. Then you both planned to profit when Lucian lost control. Raphael stood. This is absurd. He looked toward the door. Dante was already there. No violence, no shouting, just one closed path. Raphael's eyes moved to Sophia and Trent, who stood by the wall. They had been silent until then. Sophia stepped forward. Her hands shook. But her voice held. Raphael told us the empty orders were legal. He told us Mara was stealing information. He said we would lose our jobs if we did not sign. Trent nodded. I moved her away from the East Hall. I knew it was wrong. I did it anyway. The floor manager spoke next, then the purchasing clerk, then the junior accountant. One by one, they admitted the part they played, not to erase their choices, to stop Raphael and Adrian from using their fear as a shield. The council table became very quiet. Lucian had not said a word. Mara noticed Raphael looking at him with something close to hatred. He wanted Lucian to take over. He wanted the meeting to become a feud between powerful men. Instead, he was being undone by the woman he had called a plate carrier. Adrian stood sharply. This council cannot decide anything based on the testimony of staff members. Mara closed the notebook. No. But you can decide whether you want to ignore the only record that matches the kitchen, the dock, the security overwrite, and your own initials. Adrian looked around the table. No one moved to defend him. That was the moment his control ended. Not when Lucian raised his voice. Not when guards closed the door. It ended when the people who had once believed his version of the truth stopped finding it useful. The oldest council member reached for the sale agreement. We suspend the vote, she said. No sale. No transfer. An outside audit begins today. Another member turned to Lucian. And Raphael is removed from all operational access. Dante stepped forward with a phone. His credentials are already deactivated. Raphael stared at Lucian. You let her do this. Lucian finally spoke. No. She did it herself. Raphael's face tightened. Then he looked at Mara. For the first time, he seemed to see her, not as a uniform, not as an inconvenience, as the person who had understood the system he tried to turn against them. That little book will not save you, he said. Mara met his eyes. It already did. Raphael and Adrian were escorted out separately. Their consequences would come through the audit, the council's investigation, and the records they had tried to manipulate. Mara did not watch them leave. She had spent too much of her life watching people walk away after making a mess for someone else to clean. She turned instead to the service station, the same place where she had found the blue square. Lucian came to stand beside her. The dining room had begun to brighten with morning. His voice was quiet. I owe you more than an apology. Yes, Mara said. I know. He accepted that without flinching. The council will appoint an independent operations office. I asked them to offer it to you. Mara looked at him. Operations office? You would have authority over service records, private room access, and any expense that does not match the physical work of this house. You would report to the council, not to me. The proposal surprised her more than flowers or money ever could have. It was not a gift. It was power with a structure around it. "What happens when I disagree with you?" she asked. Lucian did not hesitate. "Then the system hears you. And if I leave? Then you leave. Without punishment." "Without punishment." Mara looked down at the folded offer from Chicago inside her notebook. 2 doors. Both real. For the first time, the choice did not feel like fear with better lighting. "I will take the job," she said. Lucian nodded. "And Chicago? I will call them this morning. I will tell them I am grateful, and that I am not available." Lucian's expression changed, but he did not mistake her decision for permission. "Then we will make the terms in writing," he said. "We will." She paused. "One more term. Name it." "I am not your employee outside that office." Lucian met her gaze. "You will never be asked to be. And if you want something personal?" His voice softened. "Then I ask. And I get to say no." "Yes." Mara studied him. Then she smiled. Just a little. "Good." Lucian looked toward the windows. "Would you let me take you to breakfast? Not because you owe me. Not because I owe you. Because I would like to know you when no one is asking you to save a room." Mara considered him. The man in black, who had once seen a waitress. The man who had learned, too late but honestly, to see the person. "Breakfast," she said. 1 hour. "And no business." Lucian smiled. "Agreed." As the first staff arrived for the morning shift, Mara walked through the dining room without lowering her eyes. Her uniform was still stained. Her notebook was still in her hand. But neither of them looked small anymore. If you were Mara, would you have taken the new role, or chosen Chicago and never looked back?